Hey, thank you for joining us today. My name is Anthony Hankerson. I work here at our Career Professional Development Office at WGU, specifically on the Employee Relations team. If you haven't had a chance to engage with the ER team up to this point, we are here to connect employers to our student alumni and also vice versa. We welcome everyone from wherever you're calling today, and glad that you are taking the time out to join us. Just a reminder, like I said, this meeting will be recorded and it will be emailed out to you in the next day or two. Also, with that email, you will receive a questionnaire. If you could take 2 or 3 minutes out to fill out those several questions, we do value your feedback here at WGU and want to know what we could do better for these sessions for you. This is our second week of Career Quest. So if this is your first session or if it's your fifth session, welcome. And also, we hope that you're finding these sessions to be very valuable to your education. The chat will be open. So if you have any questions, you can drop those questions in the chat. We also will be having a Q&A session at the end. I will mute mics at that time so that you can ask your questions directly, or if you're not comfortable, I can ask those questions from the chat. So without further ado, I'll pass it over to Amanda George and the AAA team.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, and thanks to everyone who was able to join today. My goal here is to share some information about us, our organization, jobs here, but also, as mentioned, leaving plenty of time for questions and providing my contact information to connect outside of here if you'd like to. So again, thank you for having me. Excited to be here. I initially connected with the college, with the university, because somebody reached out since we have so many alum who end up working for us, which is fantastic. And so, again, just excited to be here. My role here at AAA Club Alliance is to connect with great talent, share opportunities, and share a little bit about us and who we are and why it's a great place to work. And so, if you have any questions, eager to answer them, but also hoping to give you some great information today. So we'll start off by telling a little bit about us. A lot of people think about AAA and they know our tow trucks. That's probably what we're most well known for. You or your family, or you might have some friends who are members of AAA and utilize roadside assistance. And so if somebody has some car issues, locked out of their car, broken down, flat tire, if they're a member, they can give us a call and our tow trucks will come out to provide assistance. I know that's the thing that I use most out of my membership, but it's important to know we also do a lot of other things too. And so we offer travel planning, insurance, we have auto repair shops. And I say that to explain that we hire for a variety of roles, not only tow truck drivers, but also corporate positions in our retail stores, travel agents, insurance agents, and more. So we're always looking for folks with fantastic customer service skills. We're a membership-based organization, which means that members pay a fee every year and they get services as a result of that. And so we're looking for folks who are really good at connecting with people, great customer service skills, sales experience is helpful for a lot of our roles, and a willingness to learn. We understand that a lot of folks might not necessarily have every single skill needed for the position, but we're often willing to help them learn and provide educational opportunities for them to grow. At the heart of what we do, we're always looking to help people, help our members make their lives a little better, and also deliver value to them through their membership. AAA is a national organization, which is why I'm always confident when I'm talking to folks. They usually know who we are. We're a national company with a pretty extensive history, over 100 years. We are broken up into different clubs across the country. And so I work for AAA Club Alliance, which is in 13 different states. You can see us highlighted here, a good amount on the East Coast, with some a little bit more Western as well. So we're in Connecticut, Delaware, Indiana, Kansas, Kentucky, Maryland, New Jersey, Ohio, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, South Dakota, Virginia, Washington, D.C., and West Virginia. We have 2 headquarters where our primary corporate roles are based out of, and that's in Wilmington, Delaware, and Cincinnati, Ohio. But we do have some remote employees, and then again, across our whole footprint, we have some in-person folks as well. If you are joining us from a place outside of any of the ones that I just mentioned, you can still go to our website. When you go there, it'll ask you for your zip code. You can enter your zip code and you'll be able to see jobs and identify which club you fall under. But today's presentation will be primarily focused on these areas, as that's where AAA Club Alliance operates out of. I get excited when I am able to share the feedback that we hear from our associates and some of the reasons that they share ACA, AAA Club Alliance, we call ourselves ACA, is a great place to work. We're constantly growing. So we recently combined with another one of the clubs, and that expanded our footprint into a greater portion of Ohio. So while we're growing, we also have that long history I mentioned earlier of operating for over 100 years. ACA is the 3rd largest AAA club in the nation, so we're a pretty large one. And as I mentioned, we continue to expand and acquire new insurance and car care shops. For us, it's also important for us to make a difference in our community. We do that through a few different ways. Some of it is just our day-to-day work. I mentioned earlier how important it is for us to provide that great customer service to our members. We recognize that we're meeting our members oftentimes when they're having a pretty difficult day. It's not our best day when we get locked out or have a flat tire or something like that. So a lot of times we're interacting with folks on a challenging day. And so we want to make a difference. We want to make it a little bit easier for them if we can. But that also goes into our value of making a difference in the community. So we have plenty of opportunities for our associates, our employees, to give back to the community through volunteering. So we all receive a volunteer day, a paid day off to go volunteer. I personally am using it this year. I became a court-appointed advocate for kids in the foster care system. And so I'm using my day, I'm actually spreading it out over the course of this year to be able to do that and give back to the community in that way. Other of our associates will spend it on, doing a roadside cleanup or something like that, working at a food bank, those types of things. So that's something that's important to me. And so I was really glad to be able to find it in an employer that values it as well. You'll also, if you're familiar with AAA at all, you also probably know that we do a lot of different things within the store to encourage the community to give back to itself and to each other. And so we do food collections. Most recently in March, several of our stores did a collection for Dress for Success, which collects professional clothing that can be given to folks who need it, that are maybe going into the job force, new to the job force, re-going into the job force, and need access to some clothing for interviews in their first day and things like that. So a lot of our stores did that in celebration and recognition of Women's History Month in March, which is fantastic. So not only do we try to provide some opportunities for each of our associates to find a way to connect with something that's passionate for them, but there's also kind of some more global things that we all can participate in as well. For the summer, our team is planning to visit a food bank, for example, one day, that we can help package up some food. It's a great opportunity for us to spend some time together, but also a great way to give back to that community. One of the great things is that we also are advocates for safer roads. So you might know, or hopefully you know if you're a driver, that there's a move over law. And so if you're driving on the road and there are flashing lights on the side of the road, you're encouraged to move over to the lane farthest if you can. Previously, that only really included police, ambulances, things with flashing lights, emergency vehicles. AAA in the past few years has advocated for that to be expanded to include tow truck drivers and other first responders that are on the side of the road. So we're always trying to make it safer, not only for our employees, but also just globally. So we've advocated for new laws in a lot of the states where we operate to make the roads safer. Another reason we're a great place to work are the opportunities for growth. I mentioned earlier that we're always trying to provide opportunities for folks to learn. We want to see our associates grow and succeed. A constant part of the conversation with our associates is, what are some areas that you want to grow, not only in your job, but for the future. So for example, this morning I had my one-on-one with my manager and we reviewed my development plan for this upcoming year. For us, that is separate than our performance review. That's important, but for this, it was really focused on what are some areas that I want to grow to be better in my job, or to even grow into another position or move into another position in the future. There's a lot of support for that as well. And so internally, several different webinars, opportunities are offered. We recently launched an online platform that we can log into to access all kinds of different learning opportunities. And I've been taking advantage of it, of kind of picking and choosing some areas that I want to grow. But additionally, we provide financial assistance. And so folks can go back to school either for a degree or for a certificate, and we'll provide financial assistance if it's connected to their job in some way, which I think is fantastic. And then finally, rewarding hard work. We value the work that associates do, and it's important for us to compensate them fairly, not only in their pay, but also with our benefits. And so we offer to our full-time associates full healthcare, medical benefits. There's 4 different plans to choose from, which personally, again, I really appreciate that I can find a plan that works best for me. Vision, dental, we have a pretty generous paid time off policy as well, 401k contribution, et cetera. Some of those typical things that you can expect, but when you're comparing different opportunities, can be really important to understand how you're being rewarded for what you're contributing to the company. This slide highlights, it's a little messy, and so I will fully acknowledge that, but I got really excited about all these different pictures because this is something else that I'm really happy to share with folks. We have business resource groups, we call them BRGs, and they are company-supported affinity groups for associates and allies. We want to make sure that our associates, our employees, find a sense of community within our organization. And so this is one part of how we do that. These are groups that have been created by our associates. They got together, wanted to propose it, submitted a proposal, and it was supported by the company. They have a senior level leader who's connected to it to help advocate and support for them. But it's a great way, and each of them does things a little bit differently. But this highlights some of the things that our BRGs have done. Unidos is for Hispanic Latinx community and allies. Proud is for LGBTQIA plus associates. Empower is for women associates. I mentioned earlier that we did some things in March for Women's History Month, and that was primarily organized by Empower. And then BASC is for all members of the African dysphoria. And so these groups do things internally. So for example, Empower provided some webinars in January about how we can use the benefits that AAA provides us. So for example, the tuition reimbursement, a lot of their members had questions about how to utilize that. So they provided a webinar on how to do it. And they also do some things outwardly. So for example, Proud participated in some Pride events last June, and those are some of the photos that you can see here. So again, we really want to create a community that is inclusive and a space for all of our employees to find that community within the organization. Even though we're in 13 different states and we're all spread out, this is a really great way for us to connect with each other over shared identity and both give back to folks within our organization and outside the organization. Talked a lot about why I really love working for AAA and why I think others do as well, and the feedback that I've heard from folks. But I want to talk a little bit more detail about what types of opportunities we provide. I list a lot here, from tow truck driver to our corporate roles. We have a variety of positions open. When I last checked yesterday, as I was updating my last updates on this presentation, we had 275 positions open. Now, again, that's across 13 different states. sites, ranging from tow driver to cashier to our corporate roles. But any given time, we are posting pretty regularly, and it gives you an idea of the size of our company as well. Some things that I always like to highlight when I'm talking to folks who are working on a degree or may have obtained a degree that may be relevant for them. We have management positions across our organization, including in retail. And so that can be really great for folks with a business interest, who have an interest in supervision and management. We hire insurance agents. The one great thing about our organization is that we're not tied to just one um, provider. That our insurance agents can, pull information from several different providers and offer the best quote to our members. So it really allows us to, again, going back to that of being helpful for them and not tied down to one specific provider. We hire travel advisors. Those are folks who can help plan leisure travel or corporate travel. There's kind of two different categories, and that can be a really great stepping stone for folks who are interested in travel in general. You know, maybe you've done some personal travel, maybe you're interested in hospitality. There's some really great opportunities there if you just have a general zest for travel and want to help others fulfill their dreams. If you're that person who's always wanting to plan your next trip, this might be a great role for you. And then we also have corporate roles. As I mentioned earlier, we have some that are in person in Cincinnati, some that are in person in Wilmington, some that are hybrid, and then some that are fully remote. And we have pretty much any of the corporate roles that you could imagine, from HR, where I sit for talent acquisition and recruitment, to accounting, finance, IT, data analytics. All of that type of stuff would fall under our corporate roles. And so generally, there's something for everyone if you have, again, that willingness to help people, desire to help people, business background, that type of thing. At the end, I'll share a link where you can look at all of our available roles. It's hard for me to summarize all of them, but I try to get a general sense of what we offer. You've listened to me a lot, and I appreciate that. I always like to give some kind of parting tips as I start to wrap up, some things to consider. I imagine none of it is new. It's probably all things you've heard before, but I imagine if you're here, you're considering some career opportunities, whether searching for one or maybe even just seeing what's out there. So you're likely getting ready to look into some options. And so I like to just reinforce some of the things that you probably already know, but that are really valuable, at least for us in our process. I really encourage folks to think about that introduction. So when we're thinking about that interview, almost always that first question that you get is, tell me about yourself. And that can fluster a lot of us, myself included. And so really practice that. Utilize resources around you to practice it. It's important to know what you want to say, what you want to communicate. Keep it concise, but also connect it to the conversation you're having that day. Connect it to why you're in this call, why you're doing this interview, connect it to the company and what you're providing to that company. On the right here, I give an example that I'll often share with folks of a way that you can keep it casual, keep it concise, but also really kind of put out there who you are right away and why you'll be a really great and valuable asset to the company. My next tip is explain your experiences. Don't just say that you're a great communicator or a strong employee. Talk about how you develop that and what that looks like. Paint that picture of what that looks like on a day-to-day basis. How did you learn to be a good communicator? What prior experiences prepared you to be a good communicator? And then what would that look like if you were hired? What is that contributing? And what is that, again, what is that value there? I think any company is going to look for that. Oftentimes when I'm doing interviews, folks will say they're a great communicator or they're really good at time management. And that's so valuable, but go a little bit deeper and paint that picture so I can really see what that looks like for you. Everyone can say they're a great communicator, but how has that played out for you? What are some examples and what would that look like in a workplace? For us, we do a lot of virtual interviews or on the phone interviews because we're so spread out. Generally, that first contact, if not all of them, will be either through WebEx, like here, or on the phone. And so be prepared for that and find a quiet place. We know that folks are in different situations, and so we're pretty understanding about that. It can be really hard to hear somebody if you're in a place that is really busy or hectic. I've talked to people who have tried to do their phone interview while they're in a busy store. It's really hard for us to be able to fully hear you and fully focus on the great information you're sharing. And so do your best to find a quiet space as much as possible. If you're able to find a space in your house where you can take the phone call, where you minimize distractions, that's going to really help you. And so try to be mindful of that. Ask questions. I always tell people whenever I have the opportunity that we are looking to get to know our candidates, but it's also the opportunity for the candidates to get to know us. Ask us hard questions. Now's the time. Ask really specific things that are important to you. Think about what's important to you and what you want to get out of it. Um, some questions that I love to ask, I usually try to brainstorm what's going to be really important to me and ask some questions around that. I'll often ask about company culture. What does interaction between teammates look like? How often would I have access? What would that conversation with my manager look like? What are some of the day-to-day activities? What are past projects somebody has worked on? What does the onboarding process look like? I want to know that I'm going to be supported from day one and provided information on how to successfully do my job from day one. I always encourage folks to ask when they're interviewing with us about opportunities for advancement, if that's something that's important to you. What do those growth opportunities look like, and what's the timeline on that? What kind of is a reasonable expectation for moving forward, and what kind of are the stepping stones to get there? Um, I also always, I mean, the best one is always asking about next steps as well. So you walk away from the interview, you have a really good idea of what to expect coming next. So a lot of folks will say, oh, I don't have any questions, or maybe kind of ask one, but really go into that prepared, making sure that you're walking away from the interview feeling good about what you shared, but also feeling good about the information that you received and that it's going to be a good fit for you as well. You're interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing you. And then utilize your resources. You have some really great folks here on the call who are willing to help you. It's fantastic that they've interviewed these or interviewed that they've offered these opportunities for you. And I'm sure there are plenty more opportunities. So utilize your resources. That is the one benefit of folks who are still in school and alumni of an organization compared to other folks I'm talking to. You oftentimes have folks who will review your resume, who will help point you in the right direction. That's invaluable. And it can really give you a leg up, and having that kind of outsider's perspective of looking at things and thinking about what might be missing from your resume, or what you might want to include. So again, that's just kind of some takeaways. It's likely a lot of information you might already know, but I just always like to reinforce it because sometimes those reminders can be helpful as we're thinking about applications and interviews. So I list here my contact information, our website, and then this QR code. All of that will connect you to us. I always like to say, check out our career website. We have plenty of information on there. You can organize it by location. You can organize it by business line. If you need help navigating it, feel free to reach out. Generally, after somebody submits an application, it goes to the recruitment team for a review. So we have about 20 some recruiters on our team. And so I don't necessarily work on any specific recs. My job is to work with early career talent. So I can be a really great resource for you. I can help, if you want me to look at your resume, if you want to connect and ask some questions, feel free to reach out. I have a little bit of insider information about our organization, but also I can just be a great resource. After you submit that application, the recruitment team will review it. And then generally they're reaching out for an initial screening if it's a candidate they want to move forward with. As I mentioned, a lot of times that screening will be on the phone, through WebEx, or sometimes it can be one of those, I don't know, they're newish within the last like 5 to 6 years, I feel like. I didn't see them before this, but where you have to record yourself answering a question. We use those with a handful of positions that are our high volume positions. We're getting hundreds of applicants for a position, although we do our best to make it as personal as possible and use the phone call and instead of that whenever possible. If you're looking at our website, there's nothing that's a great fit right now. For example, maybe you're interested in IT, but you're fresh out of school you don't have a lot of experience. Right now, I think we have about like 3 to 4 IT positions, but they all require some years of experience. So it wouldn't really be great for somebody who's entry level, but we may have something in the future. So you can feel free to keep checking out our website, but you can also let me know, just let me know your interest. And I try to keep kind of a list that when we have a position come up that might be good for entry level, I do my best to go back to it and reach out to them and say, hey, you might be interested in this. I know we connected a while ago. If you're still looking for something, this might be a great opportunity for you. So I say that just to say, if you write down my contact information, take a picture, and nothing really fits now, but maybe a month or two from now, you're considering it. I'm not offended if you don't reach out now and want to wait a little bit. You can. The door is always open, is what I'm saying. Don't feel pressure. I know sometimes I get someone's contact information, I don't call them or contact them. I'm like, oh gosh, I feel like I can't reach out. Feel free to reach out whenever you want. That's why I'm here. I hear from folks I met a year ago, and I love to hear from folks. It's great. I am going to do my best to stop sharing my screen so I can see more folks. And I know we're opening up for Q&A. Does anybody have any questions that I might be able to answer?
If you do have a question, if you raise your hand, I can unmute you. So if you do that, then we can hear your question. Or if you would like to drop it in the chat, I can ask the question for you directly, and Amanda will be happy to answer it. All right, got one. Yushan?
Shanna, thank you so much.
Uchenna?
Yes,
Sorry
thank
about that.
you. Amanda, thank you so much for the great information you shared with us on today. I just was wondering, what's the average tenure for most of your employees?
Good question. I don't know that I have a specific statistical answer, but I can tell you my perspective. So I would say it's half and half. Some folks who will come in for a few years and then move on to something else. But I will say that a good portion of the folks that I meet with came in 15 to 20 years ago and have moved to different positions within the organization. So for example, there are 3 managers on our team. One of them started about 3 years ago. One of them started within last year, and the other started, I think, about 8 years ago in kind of an entry-level position, and then has moved her way up. And that's generally what I hear. I have the opportunity to go to a lot of career fairs, and so I get to meet a lot of different people, which is fantastic. And I usually ask them, like, oh, tell me about it. And a lot of times folks will be like, oh, I haven't been here very long. I've only been here about 7 years. I'm like, that's pretty decent right now. That's a good amount of time. And so it's not unusual for folks to have been here for a while and try different things. I know in our team of 20 recruiters, I would say about half of them have been here more than 10 years. And most kind of started at working in a store and then continued up, got promoted, tried other opportunities within the organization. So internal mobility is something that's important to us. We're always looking on ways to make that more accessible to folks so that they know about the opportunities internally that they can move up to. But I'd also say that there's a lot of support for that kind of on a through management as well. Through managers are always eager to support folks applying to positions within.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, we have one in the chat. Are there mentorship programs at AAA for new hires or programs that help new hires grow at AAA?
Good question. Currently, we do not have a formal mentorship program for new hires across the company. There are some business lines that will do that. We'll set that up just kind of naturally. We have looked at doing that company-wide. There's no immediate plan to do that, but it is on our radar that we would love to move to do that. The programs for new hires. So when you start, there's obviously some things within each business line that you learn. So I can use me as an example. When I started, there were some HR specific things I needed to learn. But across the company, all of us participate in an onboarding program that provides us information about our company overall, different business lines, resources, but it also touches on the ways that we can develop and grow. So it shares this information about tuition reimbursement. It shares information about how we can access different courses, etc. So there are some things that happen globally, as well as some really great things that happen on kind of a case by case, depending on kind of the little organization system you're in. And the hope would be for the future to have some type of mentorship program.
Great. We have another question. Does AAA provide disability accommodations?
Good question. I actually had a slide about that, and then I removed it trying to keep it down. But yes, we do. So both for the interview process and then also once you're hired. And so through the interview process, if you there's kind of two different options you can approach. Really, it's just about disclosing to somebody. And so if you are going through the application process and you need some accommodations for the actual application process, there is a note on it that says you can reach out to us by clicking here and let us know what you need. If it's more about the interview, so you do the application, but you need some accommodations for the interview process, you can connect with the recruiter who reaches out to you and they'll help support you through that. And then that often kind of carries into if you're hired, what that looks like on the job. And so, yeah, as long as you feel comfortable disclosing, we do provide accommodations. Generally, if generally you'll work with, we've tried our best. We recently revised it to make it as seamless as possible. So you're not having to go to a lot of different places to try to get those, but ideally you'll connect with the recruiter. They have a process of how they let folks know. And to keep it as private as possible too, unless you would choose to disclose something to, the hiring manager. So quick summary, quick answer is yes. You just got to let us know. And there's different ways to do that. Like I said, before the application process, as you're applying, there's a email you can click to let us know. Or if it's once you get to the interview process, you can let your recruiter know and they'll help support you through that.
Thanks. I had a question come through email. As far as applying to roles, corporate roles, when is the best time to apply if before graduation?
Good question. I would encourage you to start applying now. Depending on the business line and the manager, it can take some time. So if you are, I should say this, if you are planning to graduate within the next month or two, feel free to start applying. I'd say feel free to start applying, even 3 months ahead of time. One, it can take a little bit of time for us. I'll be honest about that. I would love us to be like one of those companies that can turn things around in a week, but being honest, that it can take us a little bit of time to turn things around. And oftentimes I'm finding that even if a manager, maybe they hope for a May 1 start date, but someone's not available until June 1, oftentimes, especially for our corporate roles, there's some flexibility there. If they can offer flexibility, they'll want to. So feel free to start applying 2 to 3 months in advance, and just if there's nothing now, you can always apply later. I don't want to say that every single one of our positions will take that time to fill, because they don't. Our goal is within a few weeks, but it doesn't hurt to start applying. And like I said, even if the manager had won someone who's available earlier, for the right candidate, oftentimes if they can wait, they'll be willing to wait a little bit until someone's available.
Good. Okay, great. Any other questions? Leave it open for a couple more minutes. You can drop your question in the chat or come off mute. All right, got another question here.
Amanda, could you share some of your company values?
Yeah, absolutely. So we recently updated them, and it didn't change them significantly, but it clarified them a little bit. So I normally, before, I think I'd be able to tell you all 4 of the values off the top of my head, but I'm gonna have to we're up to 6 now, and I'm like, oh. So I may not get the wording correct, is what I'm telling you. They changed within the last month. So innovation is one of them. Constantly, that piece I mentioned earlier, that constant growth, constantly looking for ways to do things better. We have an innovation team whose primary responsibility is to look at ways we can be more innovative and keep up with the times. As I mentioned, it's that balance between being a history with a lot of a company with a lot of history of doing things the way we've done them, but also trying to stay relevant for us. So that is one of them. The service piece, the community piece, the giving back to the community is another value as well. The growth opportunities, so providing that kind of goes with innovation, but also just making sure that our associates are getting the growth that they're looking for, that they providing opportunities for them to grow as well. And I'm missing the last two. I apologize that I should know them. So I mentioned earlier that we recently combined with another club. It's the one based in Ohio Auto Club, combined with ACA. And as a result of that, I think a really cool thing that we did as a company was, rather than just take on, bringing on this company and that this one company is going to take on all of what this company does. We had a year-long process where we looked at every single thing both companies did and picked what was the best out of both of them, which is really cool. And as a result of that, our shared values changed, because we looked at their values, our values, and tried to create, find the synergy there, which is a lot of fun. So those just came out within the last month, and I apologize, I don't have them memorized yet, but that gets a little bit about our company culture and who we are, is that helping others, helping not only the community, but our members, making sure that we're providing value to our members, innovation piece, the growth piece, again, not only as a company, but for our associates as well. That gets to some of them.
Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you, Amanda, for speaking with us today related to AAA. If you have any questions, I will be sending this recording out here the next day or two. Be on the lookout for that. That will also include Amanda's contact information. Thank you again for joining us today for Career Quest, and have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Bye.